Hey, it's me, MLB. Here's chapter 19 of Shattered Image, and this chapter is titled Off the Rails. Once inside the ramen shop, ordering was done pretty quickly, and then Sero asked a question from the pointy end of the stick. So, how do you think you went today? He asked. Why do you even need to ask that question? You snapped angrily at him. I'm obviously going to fail because my quirk was useless for the test, which is complete and utter BS if you ask me. Who deliberately sets up an exam where someone can't use their quirk and then fails them on it? You huffed. Sarah replied with a sweat-dropped look on his face. No, I think the idea was to actually do the rescue. Sure, quirks did come in handy, but I don't think that was the point. I'm going to fail anyway, you grumbled, crossing your arms across your chest and looking away. Sero frowned. Were you always going to be like this? Okay, he finally said. So you're going to fail. You've already decided that. Now what? You looked at him. I don't know, get kicked out of school and then be another disappointment to everyone? You mumbled with a scowl. Do you like being like this? Sarah then asked rather sharply. What do you mean like this? Why are you being so cryptic and judgmental? If you don't want to be here, just leave, you snapped. Sarah looked at you and then sat back in his seat. You ever heard of something called projecting? He asked. No, you replied curtly. It's got a few different ways of presenting itself, but one example is where someone talks about themselves, but claims the other person is what they're describing about themselves. He said. You're not making any sense, you replied with a scowl. Well, you asked me why I'm being so cryptic and judgmental, when in actual fact, I think that you're talking about yourself. You're so quick to arc up whenever someone tries to genuinely be nice to you. You judged Momo wrong today, and now you're saying to me, if you don't want to be here, just leave. I think that's what you want to do. He said, so if you're uncomfortable, leave. You know what? Stuff you said as you got up, grabbed your bag, and stormed out. You never cared! And with that, you were gone. A second after you stepped out of the ramen shop, the waiter brought over your bowls of ramen and gave Sero an apologetic look. I'm sorry, did you want me to... He fumbled. Can you please put it in a takeaway container? Sarah asked politely. I'll give it to her later. Oh, yes, no problem, he replied, and ran off to get the takeaway container for Sero. The black-haired classmate sat there for a second or two and stared into his steaming bowl of ramen. You were a quandary, and he revisited old thoughts of if you were worth keeping this up. You were so volatile and quick to push him away, but then he remembered all the looks of pain and longing in your eyes, the stress on your face as you struggled with pulling the dummies from the water, and the hurt in your voice when you expressed your feelings of uselessness, and he sighed and scrunched his eyes closed. I can't let her go, he thought with annoyance, as he grabbed for his chopsticks and snapped them in half and then dug into the hot bowl of ramen and shoved a massive amount of noodles into his mouth. The burst of amazing flavour was immediately punched out of the way by the sudden sting of hot noodles on his tongue, and he hissed with surprise and started to chew with mouth open, huffing air in and out of his mouth to cool the noodles down so that he could swallow them, tears pricking at the corners of his eyes as he rapidly fanned his hand in front of his mouth. Finally, he got that mouthful down and sat back for a second to rethink his life choices before going in for another bite, and then it struck him. Yuna's like this bowl of noodles, he thought as he pushed the chopsticks into the bowl and swished them around, releasing the steam. She's cool, and I like her company a lot, but when I try and take her in too quickly, I get burned. But the burn isn't bad enough for me to stop pulling her in, because I really do enjoy her company. He swished the noodles a little more, and then got a smaller mouthful this time, and blew on the noodles before putting them in his mouth. Baby steps. He thought, I need to give her time, so that she cools down enough for me to pull her in. I've been pushing for her to open up, to make friends, to focus on what's important, and it's too soon. I need to step back a little and let her breathe. Your takeaway? The voice of the waiter said as he appeared on Sarah's right side with the takeaway container. Oh, thank you. Sarah replied back as he took it. I'll still give this to her tomorrow, because these noodles are good. She shouldn't miss out on them. The front door slammed shut with a bang as you entered your place, your anger entering the house before you, and your dad called out from the lounge immediately. Careful with that door, he barked. You didn't reply. You were scared to open your mouth lest you let fly your inner thoughts at his comment, and it wasn't going to be a nice reply, let's just put it that way. You dropped your bag off your shoulders and then threw it on the ground, then took off Sero's jumper and threw it on top of your bag, and then kicked your shoes off and marched into the house, heading straight for the stairs and your room. Your mum wasn't home yet, so you had a little time to get yourself together before she arrived, but you were so mad you couldn't think straight. Stupid arsehole, you seethed as you stormed into your room and turned around to slam the door, but then you remembered your dad was downstairs and you were probably going to cop more of an earful from him if you slammed another door, so closed it quietly, but then walked straight over to your bed and grabbed for your pillow. You pretended it was Sero's face and lay into it, punching it mercilessly, fist after fist, using all of your strength until your lungs ran out of oxygen and you had to stop so that you could catch your breath. "Oh, I hate him!" you screamed in your mind, lunging your face down to the pillow and screaming into it. But deep down you knew it wasn't him. You knew it was you. You felt like a failure on all levels. You felt like you had flunked out on the mission today, but also you felt like you had flunked out on comparing yourself to Little Miss Pretty Perfect chick with the "I can make everything" quirk, and you seethed when you remembered Sero giving her a high five. "He just abandoned me so quickly," you screamed internally, a lump forming in your throat. "I don't want him to like her. It's not because I like him or anything, it's just if he starts hanging out with her, then I'll be on my own again." That's what you told yourself anyway. You rolled over on the bed and pulled your legs up to your chest. You felt restless, still angry, hungry, so many intense emotions that you ended up flinging your legs down and then getting up and changing out of your school uniform. "As long as you're not in school uniform when you fight, I guess that's okay." The voice of Sero echoed in your mind, and you grinned maliciously as you threw your school clothes off and chucked on other ones and then grabbed for some shoes from your closet. "Okay, so if I get out there and wreck some much-needed havoc, if I'm not in school uniform, that's all right," you asked yourself internally. "That's what he said, right?" you added, getting excited about what you were thinking of doing. "Time to go and have some fun," you thought with a grin as you opened your bedroom window quietly and slipped out onto the roof and then closed it behind you. 1 hour later, your mum came home and let herself into the house, her eyes falling on your school bag and thrown jumper and shoes, and she smiled to herself as she tidied them up a little. "She's been home so much more, it's good," she thought as she entered the main part of the house and called out a greeting. Your dad replied, but you didn't, and she assumed that you were up in your room. "I'll call her down for dinner soon," she thought as she went into the kitchen to start preparing for dinner. The first thing she did, though, was make coffee. One for her, one for you, and one for Dad, happily setting 3 mugs out on the counter as she went about getting other things out for dinner. Uh-oh, spaghetti-oh. Stay tuned for tomorrow, chapter 20 coming then. I'll see you then.